last time. All right. Looks like we're finally up. Sorry for the delay, guys. Had some streaming configuration issues, as I sometimes do. All right. Let's check a couple more things here. Good morning and welcome, guys. My name is Terry White. I'm the Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. And it's my pleasure to take you guys on a crash course of using Adobe InDesign, as well as just some things you can do to help your brand. Normally I'm doing Lightroom and Photoshop and photography on this channel. So my example that I'll use today is aimed at photographers, but if you're not a photographer, it doesn't matter. You'll still be able to use the tips for whatever business, small business, consulting firm, whatever it is you have. You'll be able to jump in and do. The same things. Now, if you're watching the replay, if you're watching the video on demand, this was from a live session. So occasionally I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll look over at my chat pod to see who's saying what, or see if there are any questions I need to address. And if there are questions, then I will address the questions and repeat the question whenever possible. If you're joining me, live, I appreciate it. It just reminded me, though, of one more comment I need to make to some folks that were watching on the other stream. Hang on, for example. All right, and let me move my chat window over so we can see it. And awesome. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is, since we got off to a kind of a late start with some technical difficulties, I'm just going to bounce over to the chat pod for a second, look to see if I missed anything. All the hellos. Hello, everyone. Sorry I won't get to do an individual shout out, but I see Starkunch, Elsie Finch, Victoria, Croc Dog, and others. Thanks for being here. And glad to see you guys. Some of you guys came over from YouTube. Glad to see you've been on my YouTube channel. And today I did a shout out on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, sharing the stream, because I know a lot of people ask me all the time about InDesign questions, or just how to do certain things, and building brochures and building price lists and building cards or whatever it is. And while, again, I've been concentrating over the last few years on Photoshop and Lightroom, and yes, you can build a lot of things in Photoshop. You can build just about anything in Photoshop. It isn't always the right tool to build certain things. For example, if you're just building a one-page design card, whatever, sure, you can do it in Photoshop. Photoshop has all kinds of great pixel-based and vector-based tools. Great typography now, it has the glyphs panel, it has all the stuff that I would want. But if I'm trying to build designs that are multiple pages, brochures, newsletters, magazines, things that are traditionally long-form documents, Photoshop's not the tool for that. Even though it has the new artboards, it's really not designed for those longer form kinds of documents, or documents that are going to be mostly text with images interspersed in. Sure, you can do it in Photoshop, but it's just like I can drive in a screw with a hammer. It's just not going to be the best experience. It's going to cause damage, and it's not going to be fun. So if you are used to Photoshop, the good thing is a lot of what you know in Photoshop comes over to InDesign. So you can take advantage of stuff that you've been doing in Photoshop and put it in InDesign. And also, we should still have time for this, because I'm going to cut something else out that we'll save it for the next. I'll save it for the new year. That wasn't InDesign related. We're going to talk about putting your document online, making it interactive. So adding it to your website once we're done. So lots of things we can do today with InDesign. I'm going to be streaming now for the next couple of hours and showing you guys what you can do in terms of taking advantage of the ability to create or work on your branding with InDesign CC. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let's see if I've seen any other outstanding questions. I don't see any. So let's go ahead and dive in. I just want to check one more thing real quick. Alrighty. Okay. All right, so let me switch cameras so you guys can see what we're working on here. And now you should be able to see my desktop and me in the corner. Hi, I'm still here. You'll also be able to see the applications we'll be working on and things that we're going to do. Now, yes, you could just jump right in and create a new InDesign document. Absolutely. You can create a new Photoshop document, a new Illustrator document. But one of the ways to help you kind of get started in a very easy manner is to design it, or start the design at least, on your mobile device with Adobe Comp CC. Now, Comp CC is available on iOS. It's not on Android yet. Of course, we're always doing the best we can to get the apps on Android as quick as we can. But for right now, as of this recording, it's a iOS-only app. At first, it was an iPad-only app. Then it came out for iPhone, and then, of course, we continue to build on it to make things available on the platforms that you want them on. So for right now, I'm going to do this on the iPad. I could do it on the phone as well to get started. And whether you start on your mobile device or start right in InDesign, the concepts are going to be the same, but it's a lot easier, I think, for people that, especially beginners, to download this free app and get started on your mobile device. So let me get the iPad queued up here and ready to go. I think we got QuickTime loaded over there. I do. And let me wake up the iPad here. And, oh, don't want me over there. I want me over here. There we go. And now we can bring the iPad back. Okay, so I've got my iPad up on screen now. And let me actually physically pick it up and bring it over. And I'm going to switch cameras here so you guys can see this a little bit better. All right, so I've got the iPad in front of me here. Let me turn the camera around. That way you can kind of see what I'm doing both ways. Okay, so here, let me pull the iPad over on screen. There we go. So, and let me make it a little smaller. There we go. Okay, so at the very bottom right-hand corner, I've got a folder called Adobe. It's just where I put all my Adobe apps. All of these apps are free on the App Store, free to use, whether you're a Creative Cloud member or not. Obviously, if you are a Creative Cloud member, then you get to take advantage of the things you can do in Creative Cloud. But if you're not a Creative Cloud member, you still get to use these apps free of charge for good. I mean, it's not like they're not a trial. You're actually able to download the apps that we're talking about today and just use them. So even if you never owned or used or became a Creative Cloud member of InDesign, you could still design your branding and compositions in Adobe Comp CC. But if you are an InDesign, Photoshop, or Illustrator user, you can take what you start with Comp CC and send it to your desktop to complete or work on in the three apps I mentioned. So Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. So Comp CC is the app that's at the very top there in the middle, or third icon. I'm going to go ahead and tap on Comp CC. That will bring it up, and that will bring up the last design that I did. Hang on, the window's over too far. There we go. That'll bring up the last designs that I did, and hello everyone that just joined me on the chat there. Thanks for joining me, and we're starting our process with Comp CC. And then we're going to go back to the desktop and continue working on it with InDesign CC. All right, so here's how comp works. Let's say you're out and about and you've got your mobile device, whether it's your iPad or your iPhone, and you decide, hey, I would love to be able to do a brochure when I get back to the office, or I'd love to do a flyer right now and share on social media, or I'd love to do an idea and pass it to a friend and have them look at it. Well, before, you'd have to either open your laptop or have your laptop with you and fire up a desktop app to do that, or you'd have to wait till you got back to your office or home. Now, with comp, I can go in and just tap the plus sign, and I get some presets built in that are already ready to go. So whether I'm building for a mobile device such as a phone or tablet, whether I'm building for print, I've got print designs in there as well, or whether I'm building for web, I've got web designs to be able to choose from. So these are designs, and by the way, the blue circle is just where I'm pressing my finger. That is not going to be, if you see it on the design, it's not going to be on the design when you actually finish it. Okay, so I can decide, okay, what am I going to work on? Well, I think I'm going to work on my brochure. So what I can do is I can say that I want a letter size, and the thing that still cracks me up about here, they kind of left off one thing about letter. I see letter, which is 612 by 792, but that's portrait. What if I want to work on this landscape? And I can see there's A4 portrait and A4 landscape, but we still are missing, for whatever reason, the letter landscape preset. I don't know why it's not here. I think it's just an oversight. The team just forgot it. All right, so 792 by 612 is what I want. So since I don't see it here, I'm just going to go ahead and make it. You can make whatever format you want, and that will be there from now on. Let me bring up my regular keyboard, not the emoji keyboard. There we go. And I'm going to call it letter landscape. There we go. And it was what, 792 by 612, I think is what it was. 792 points by 612. Unfortunately, it's in points. You don't get to change it to inches, at least. I don't know, I haven't checked lately, but you couldn't change it to inches before. Maybe you can now. And once you save that format becomes part of your copy of comp. So I don't have to ever create that layout again. It's always there. So once you create your own personal letter landscape, you will have your own letter landscape. So just like the ones here, Facebook banner, blog image, Instagram, those are ones that I created. All right, can you export to PDF? You cannot export to PDF. You can save it as an image and then open it in another app that makes PDFs on your mobile device, but it's just going to save it as an image from the mobile device. So for example, you could theoretically save it as an image and then open it in Adobe Reader, which is free on your mobile device, and then convert it to a PDF that way. All right, so let's say that I want the letter now. So that opens up and it gives me a letter size document. Now, of course, it shrunk it down. I can pinch and zoom and make this as big as I want, but it's showing it to me at 100% based on the resolution of my iPad Pro. Now, at this point, I can start to decide what I want and where. Now, you can either just simply go up to the upper right-hand set of buttons there, and there's one that looks like an image. I can tap the image, go get an image, and bring it right down. Or I can say, well, I'm not really sure yet which images I'm going to use or what text I'm going to use. So I'm going to just start putting the placeholders down first. Now, I'm going to show you a few placeholders, and I'm going to show you how you can be a placeholder master by bringing up the cheat sheet. So first and foremost, if you want a shape, let's say I want an ellipse or a circle, I can just draw a circle with my hand and it will make it into a circle. So I don't have to, here, let me tilt it more towards you guys. I don't have to draw a perfect circle with my finger, which I would never be able to do. I can also, of course, scrub it out. So once again, if I want a circle, I draw a circle with my hand as best I can, and it will draw the circle. If I want a square, hang on a minute, and I always screw that up. Okay, but anyway, if If I want a square, I draw the best square that I can, and comp knows to make it into an actual square. If I want to scrub things out, do more than a couple. If I want a triangle, do the best triangle I can, and it makes it into a triangle. So right now, those are just regular shapes that can be filled with a color, they can be stroked, they can be used as shapes. But if you want an actual placeholder, then you just make sure you have an X in the placeholder. That will be a container that will actually give you the ability to place objects into it. The app in question, someone asked on the chat pod once again, is Adobe Comp CC, a free app for iPad and iPhone. So let's say I want to put an image in the upper right hand corner. Well, I can just draw an X, and now it knows that that's going to be a placeholder in the upper right hand corner. All right, so looks like Elsie Finch is asking a question that's not related to me. All right, so anyway, just checking, making sure. Hey Rufus, how's it going? Hey Renee. All right, so back to our story. So we've got our image there. I can of course move that around. I get handles on it to reshape it, resize it, get it any way I want. And of course, once it locks to a specific aspect ratio, now you're just scaling. You don't have to worry about distorting it. And of course, I can pick that up, put it anywhere that I want, and size it and put that wherever I want that to be. Now, let's say that I'm also going to want text. To draw text, you can do it a couple of ways. You can just draw a single line and say that's going to be a headline. Or you can do it as body text, like a paragraph of text. So let's say that I want a headline in the upper right hand corner. Think of this as like a 3-panel brochure. So I could draw my line and put a dot on the end of it. Once I draw my line and put a dot on the end of it, then it knows to make that text. Now you'll also see a little handle on the right hand side going up and down. That handle is to decide the size. So you can make that any size you want, and of course you can still pick that up, move it around, and when I say size, I mean the size of the type. Now if I want actual body text, then I just do more than one line. So for example, I do line, 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 dot, and it knows to make that into more paragraph text, and of course I could shrink it down and make that text anywhere I want, and I get smart guys to help me line it up. So this is really helping me build my design by, again, using concepts of just putting placeholders there, and I'll figure out what's going to go in it maybe later, maybe now. It doesn't matter. So if I want to maybe bring that down now, and I decide I want an image there instead, I get an image that I can pick up, align, and put my image placeholder there. That's probably going to be a little too wide. Hang on. Bring these over. All right. Maybe something more like that. Okay. I just want to check one thing real quick here. So there's a new feature in this version. I went up to the little gear icon, and you notice there's a grid and guides function now. So I can say add, and that will give me the ability to add, let's see here. I want to add a vertical guide. There we go. Pick that up and move it. That would be great. All right, so let's add our vertical guide. Maybe right about there. And of course, I'm getting the exact position of it in the upper right-hand corner. So I could do the math and divide this up if I wanted to. Or, let's see here, can I? There we go. There we go. That's what I was looking for, was columns. I almost had it perfect. So I just tap the button in the right-hand corner to add column guides. And again, this is new. So you can either draw manual guides, which is what I did the first time, or just use your button in the lower right-hand corner to add column guides. So now that'll give me column guide, so I know exactly what my 3 columns would look like. And again, if you want vertical or horizontal, you can go ahead and add your vertical or horizontal guides and pull those around any way you want. Once you're done, then you have visible guides that now I'm not guessing, even though I guessed pretty well, I'm not guessing where the content actually needs to reside to be in 3 columns. And of course, those guides don't print and don't export. All right, is anybody else having a problem with the stream? Can you guys all see me? One person says they're not getting the stream, says offline. All right. Can you set guides as a percentage of the page? No. So what you saw is what you get. You can divide the page up, but not as a percentage. Again, keeping in mind that this is really like still a very early stage of this app. Even though it's 2.0, it's only been out for like a year. So all of the things that you're probably thinking about are probably on the drawing board, even though I'm not going to commit to any of them. Okay, so now I've got that. And again, if I want, maybe I want to put a photo in the middle column here. This time I want that photo to be in a circle. So I can draw the circle with the X in it to let it know that it's going to be a placeholder. If I want to scale it down, I can, and I can move that around and use my my guides there, my vertical guide, or sorry, my horizontal guide to line that up. And if I want to put this in here, more like that, that looks better. So, as you can see, it's starting to come together with at least the initial look and feel that I'm looking for. And of course, I can keep adding more text. So if I want another headline on the back there, I can add headline there. And again, I can spread that out, make that a little bit bigger. And now, what if you actually want a real line? So instead of it, I draw the line, hit the dot, but what if I just want a line? And this has changed from earlier versions of Comp. Before, you could draw a line. And if you didn't put the dot in there, it would be a line. But now when I draw that, it just disappears. So how do I make a line? Just draw the line and then go back real quick. So like this. Then it knows that you want, there we go. Then it knows you want a real line as opposed to, or rule, as opposed to just a, oh, that's not letting me do it. So if I go this way, does that work? Never tried it going up and down. There we go. Yeah, that makes vertical lines too. Okay, so you can make your rules. Now, as far as actually getting content into this, you can get content into any of your placeholders, or you can bring in content the way we talked about earlier, just by tapping on the picture thing at the top there. So I'm going to take this rule, I'm going to move it down. I'm going to take this rule and delete it, because I don't need it. And now I'm going to start putting some content in here. So I'm going to take this, this circle, I want to place a photo in it. So you'll notice that you have the buttons at the very top up here, and then you've also got buttons at the very bottom. Those buttons at the bottom are to interact with the content that's already on the page. The buttons at the top are to put new content on the page. So since I already put a placeholder there, then I go down to the bottom to actually deal with the placeholder. So if I want to place something in it, I hit the image button at the bottom, not the one at the top. And now I can tell it where to get that content from. So for example, if it's a photo that's on my iPad, in the Photos app, or anywhere on the iPad itself, then, or yeah, in the Photos app, I can go ahead and say, get it from my device. I can say, take a picture with the device's camera and import that picture in right now. So you could literally do a brochure on the fly in a location that you happen to be in. If it's in my Creative Cloud Libraries, Files folder, any of that, then I can hit My Files, or I can grab royalty-free, actually free vector artwork from the marketplace, or I can get Adobe Stock, which is not free, but I can at least start experimenting with Adobe Stock right here. So for example, if I'm looking for, let's see here, let's do Adobe Stock. If I'm looking for a picture of a camera, or cameras, I can say search for a camera. it will find photos of camera and people with cameras and things of cameras and all kinds of cameras. And I kind of like this one with the little girl. So I can tap on that photo, and I can say which one of these do I like best, because it shows me all the other ones that are in that category. And I kind of like this one, and that's kind of cute. And maybe I won't like it, or my client won't like it, so I'm not going to buy it yet, but I'm going to save it as a preview, and that way it'll be watermarked, it'll have the file number, but I haven't paid for it yet. I haven't used it. I haven't licensed it yet. So I'm going to say Save Preview. It's going to ask where to save it. I'm going to put it in one of my Creative Cloud libraries, which I think I have one called Adobe Stock. Now, we'll of course put it in the brochure as well. So now that image is there. It's linked to my Adobe Stock panel. The preview has already been synced to my desktop. So I can work with that photo and use it any way I want as a preview. Once I'm ready to actually use it for real, then I can license it if I choose to. Now let's say I want to use one of my own photos. I don't want to use stock. I want to use one of the photos I took. So I can select this placeholder, and I can say, you know what? I know I've got my own photos in Lightroom. So I can go and say, go to my Lightroom photos. That will show me all my Lightroom collections. I can go to Europe here where it went on tour, and I can say, bring in this picture of the Louvre. Yep, that's the one I want. And then that photo drops down from Lightroom into that spot. If I want to change the text, I can change this to anything I want. So I can say that this is my, I'm just making stuff up as we go along, but travel brochure. Type that right? Yep, travel brochure. And of course, one of the other advantages of working with Comp over any other app is that I don't have to live with just that sample font that came in. I can select that, still select it. So I can hit the T at the bottom there, and I can choose any font I want from the Typekit library. So I can go in and I have fonts in here that I've already used before. So if I like Trojan Pro, I can go ahead and select that font as the one I want. And of course I'd have to make that either the box bigger or the text smaller. But maybe I don't want that one. So let's go ahead and scroll down and find another one. I kind of like that one too. That's called Lust. I can't pronounce that. Is it Did One or Did On? Regular. I kind of like that one. It's a nice serif font. And again, my type right now is wrapping because that box is too small or the type's too big. So if I like that font, then I can go in, make the box bigger or the type smaller. And if I want to change the color, I can. So that's the black circle at the bottom there. If I tap that, I can choose any color in the spectrum. But if I want to use colors that are going to be consistent, then I can go to my libraries here, and I can use a color from a library. So I'm in my Adobe Demos library, and if I like this burgundy here, I can use that burgundy, which is in the third set of swatches from the top. So now that's going to be a consistent color that I can use for the rest of the design when I get back to InDesign. All right, so let's say I've kind of got started here in InDesign, and now I want to, in Comp, and now I want to send it over to InDesign. So at this point, in the upper right-hand corner, you have your share button. You can, of course, keep working on this. You can put a background photo in. You can put more text in, more images, more whatever you want. But at some point, either you're going to finish it in Comp or you're going to finish it in InDesign. That's up to you. If I tap the share, now I can send that to InDesign, Photoshop, or Illustrator. And it will be a layered, editable file with all the assets, wherever they're linked to, coming in directly. So I can say send to InDesign CC. That will build an InDesign document out of this. I see the little wheel spinning in the upper right-hand corner while it's doing that. And once it builds the document and syncs it up to Creative Cloud, and then it syncs back down on my desktop automatically in the background. There it is, just sent. Oh, sorry. My screensaver came on. because I hadn't been doing anything on my screen for a while. Hang on for a second. There we go. Once I send that over to Adobe InDesign CC, again, it'll sync it and then open it in InDesign once it comes over. So I'm going to put the iPad away, and that will come over in its time, whatever time it takes to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to switch gears for a second here. And we'll get to work on InDesign from another aspect. Now, how many of you, you can say this in the chat, how many of you are not designers? In other words, you want to do stuff like that you see cool people doing that are designers, but you're design challenged. You could maybe get the software to work the way you want it to work, but it's really just coming up with the ideas and things like that. So if you're a designer, let me know. If you're not a designer, let me know. All right. I'll give you a few seconds to type that in the chat one way or the other. All right, not a designer, designer, not a designer. All right, just checking here. If you made something, you're a designer, okay. Not design challenged, okay. Understood. Photographer, developer, not really a designer. And that's usually what I run into. There are people that have businesses that want to have good designs. And of course, you should always pay a designer when you can. But sometimes you need something that there's no budget to hire a designer. You don't really have the money to pay a designer to design it professionally, and you have to do it yourselves. Especially in small business, that happens often. Hang on, let me check one thing here. So if you fall into that category, what I can recommend that you do is, first of all, before you jump into the blank page, start by looking at other designs that you like. We all do it. We all, get inspired, not copy, don't rip off, but get inspired by other designs that you see. So for example, let's say that I want to create a price list for my photography business. Now, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, 8.5 by 11, US standard size, tall or wide, I don't really care. And I can picture, well, I want my logo on it somewhere, and I want probably a couple of pictures I've taken somewhere. And then you start to think of, portrait session, ... price. Outdoor portrait session, ... price. Prom picture, ... you start thinking of a physical price list. And while that's functional and gets the word across, that may not be the best design. Because what you've done in your head is you put together the elements that should be on it, but you want your website on it, obviously, and you haven't put together the actual design. Oh, well, yeah, I want my name on it, I want my logo on it, I want the prices on it, I want my pictures on it, and I want my website on it. That's the stuff you would tell the designer. And then the designer would go off and build it and bring back, hopefully, something beautiful. So without that person to go back and go out and build back with something beautiful, that's where you need to get some inspiration. So how can we do this? Two ways. The obvious way, or maybe it's not so obvious, one of the obvious ways is Google's your friend. Google can help you at least find examples of what you might want so that you can then go build your own. So for example, photography, price list. And normally it's going to come up with, you know, all the different articles and things, but the images is what I'm most interested in. So I'm going to look for images of a photography price list. And right off the bat, I'm seeing designs that I would have never in my head thought of, but are very easy to do. For example, this one kind of jumps out at me right here, where it's nicely designed, uses, you know, contrast in colors and type. I don't really care about the packages, but it's giving me ideas of what I might want. It's on a nice background, and it's just basically inspiring me to say, oh, I never thought of designing it that way. Maybe now that I have that idea in my head, I will come up with my own design similar to it. I don't want to rip whoever this is off, letter for letter, pixel for pixel, but at least now I've got a concept that I wasn't thinking about a minute ago. By the way, that just popped open in front of us there, the stuff we sent over from Comp. So I see everything is there except it did not preserve the guides, which are easy enough to put back in InDesign. All right, so that was one way to get started. And of course now this is all editable. So if I wanted to go in here and say Terry White Photography, and of course that type's too big, so we can make it smaller and make it fit. I can do all that. But that was just one way to go from Comp into your desktop, starting with maybe sitting down with other people that need to have input on it, your client, sitting down with your friends, whoever is going to help you with this, and you guys rough it out on your iPad or your iPhone. And again, once you bring it over, you can change it completely. You can say, well, you know, what was I thinking? I don't want that text there. I want that text here. And you can move it around. You can do whatever you want. Oh yeah, I don't really want that photo anymore. Replace it with a different photo. So you're not locked into anything you did in Comp. Comp was to get you started, to comp the design, and then you can come in here and completely change it to whatever you want. So this is cool. We're going to save it. And we're going to call it Comp Start. And I'll save it to the desktop. So that way I can close it. And I actually opened it twice. Don't save that. All right. So we saved one of them, and then I'm going to go in. Now we're going to do one from scratch. Okay. What about save as? I just did a save as, so I'm not sure what that question relates to. All right. Okay. All right, so now let's go back to the ideas that we were talking about before. So I see that price list. That kind of looks cool. I see this one. Hadn't thought of that idea either. That looks cool. Here's one that seems to me that looks a little crowded. Not what I had in mind. Horrible uses of type. So you will not always find great examples. And if this is yours, I'm sorry. But you will find sometimes bad examples. And even though I'm not what I would consider a graphic designer, I know what I like and what I don't like. And this would be one that would fall into the category not crazy about it. Don't like the use of type on this one. And it's crowded. It's a lot of information on that one page. So think about those kinds of things when you go out to get started. This one looks clean, simple. But the one thing here that I'm not seeing that I don't like, that I liked on the first one, was there's no photos. This is a photography price list and there's not a single photo on it. So that, again, just think of the kinds of things that you might want and go around looking on the web for ideas to help you get started. Let's see what this one looks like. This one's better. Simple, photo, packages, big prices. I'm not sure that why the price is the leading factor, unless you're just trying to say you can start from a cheap 150 and go up to 300 and you get more. Again, that's up to you to decide what's the leading thing. But again, what they've done here is a good mixture of type. All the prices are consistent, big bold print. Then you've got the smaller descriptions of what's included in each package. And then you've got the fancier type for the headlines of the package names. So in most good designs, you're not going to have any more than 3 different typefaces or type styles. This is certainly keeping to that limit. You can change color, of course, but really you want to keep it to 2 to 3 maximum different, so you can have contrast, different fonts or styles. What fonts do you recommend, serif or sans serif? Okay, I'll answer that in just a second. Can you pay for access to stock photos? If you have Creative Cloud, you can pay for access to stock photos, of course, too. Yes. So what fonts do I recommend, serif or sans serif? Really, I'm more of a sans serif person. I like sans serif typography more so than I like serif typography. And it really depends on what you're trying to do. To me, sans serif fonts are easier. And by the way, if you're like, what's sans serif and what's serif? For example, this price list is sans serif, meaning that each character, especially like here, let's see if I can zoom in on it. Like the letters, they don't have those little swashes on the end of each character. Like the letter N doesn't have the line going up with that little thing sticking out from the upper right hand side. So that's a sans serif font. If we go back to the one I wasn't crazy about, if I can find it, I think that might have been another reason why I wasn't crazy about it. Yeah, see, this one uses serif fonts. The accents on the end of every single character. That's a serif font versus sans serif. And this is just, again, crazy with that particular font, but we're not here to make fun. All right. Next, isn't the whole point to put a lot of information on a flyer? No, the whole point is to get the information across. If you need to put a lot of information on a flyer, you have to ask yourself, do you really need to? Or what's the flyer trying to drive them to do? In most cases today, is to drive them to a website to do more. So from the flyer, what I would think about from a design standpoint, if it's a flyer, not price list, from a design standpoint, is something that's really catching that makes me want to learn more about your photography and drives me to an action, whether it's call you, go to your website, or whatever, to find out more or sign up or do whatever. That's the real point of a flyer, is to call action. Now, if it's a price list, yeah, you got to put prices on it because you're calling it a price list, so people would expect to have prices. All right, what about space to help people with visual disabilities? Yeah, it should have space. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking me. Space is important. I'm wondering, what app do you use for branding? I use lots of apps for branding. I use all of the above, Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop. So let's see, where are we with time? All right, we've got just over an hour left. So let's get to the meat of it. Let's get to InDesign right now, and then that way we can learn as we go, and you can continue to ask questions. All right, yeah, white space is critically important. Again, that's why certain designs like this one I wouldn't even click on because there's no white space whatsoever left on this design. I'll click on it to show you, but it's like they tried to pile everything that they possibly could on one page. And it didn't even render the full res. But look at all that. There's no space whatsoever. So it's so busy, it's so crowded, I don't even want to finish reading the rest of this. So keep in mind, it's a delicate balance between trying to cram every bit of information you can versus putting so much information that no one wants to read it. You got to remember that too. People are always saying they're crunched for time. I don't have time to look at all that. Then put the catchy things on it, the most important things, send them somewhere else if they want more. Don't try and put everything about you, your whole life story, your whole business story on one page because it won't fit. And then it's going to look like this, whatever this is. So keep in mind, clean, visual, attractive. Wow, that's cool. I want to learn more should be the end result. All right. Okay. All right. Looks like I got all the questions caught up now. And so let's go build something. Let's go build something similar. We'll build something similar to this one. Again, I kind of like this design. It's kind of clean. All right. So keep in mind what's going on here. We've got a big photo in the background, even though it doesn't look like it. That's kind of like a photo that I believe kind of starts right about here on down, and then they're just blending it into the same color of the background page. And then they got the elements on it for the pricing, and then down here they reverse it out for your, your contact information. So keep that one in mind. We're going to build something similar to that, and really it's about showing you how to use InDesign and how to get going. All right, so let's go in. InDesign CC, this is what the new open or new document experience looks like with the latest version. So I'm going to go ahead and click New for a brand new document. And now it's going to ask me questions that if I'm new, I may not even understand what it's asking me. First and foremost, it's asking me how many pages. Well, I don't know. That's going to be the answer for a lot of us. Maybe 2, maybe 4, maybe 6, maybe 8. Now, you may know the exact number of pages. You may know that it's going to be a price list front and back. Okay, that's 2 pages because technically it's front and back. So you decide whatever that's going to be. So let's say it's going to be 2. All right, facing pages. That really refers to if it's going to open like a book. You have a left and right facing page. If you don't have that, if it's this, or I should say that, then that's not facing pages. If it's this, then it is facing pages. So mine's front and back. I don't need facing pages. Whatever size you want, you can choose it from the pop-up, or you can type in something custom. If you want to make an 8x10, for example, to match the size of a photo, again, speaking to photographers, then type in 8x10. And that way you can print it out and send it with an 8x10, and it would be the exact same size. Now, you're saying, well, wait a minute, that doesn't look like inches to me, that looks like points and picas. And you're right, because InDesign does default to that. But just as a side tip, you can put in whatever measurement system you want, and InDesign will preserve it. So for example, or convert it. So if I say 8IN for 8 inches, it'll make it 48 points by 10 inches, which is 60 points. It'll do the math. You don't have to worry about that. And you don't have to learn points and picas. And by the way, yes, you can change your preference to be inches, so you don't ever have to see that again. But even if I didn't change the preference, I can type in whatever measurement I want in the measurement system I know, and it will do the math to do the conversion. All right, I'm going to put it back on letter. Maybe not. All right, letter doesn't want to come back. Legal doesn't want to come back. All right, let's do cancel. Let's do new. There we go, we're back to letter. All right, no facing page. Now, primary text frame. No, we don't want that. That's just saying if we want to just type a bunch of text on the page, it would put the frame there for us. We don't want that. And do we want any margins or columns or any of that? We're just going to leave everything else on the defaults. We can make changes later. So let's click OK. And that will give us our 2 pages. When you're saying, Terry, I only see 1. Where's the other page? The other page is one that I didn't ask for. That's why we only see 1. But no, that's not why we only see 1. But let's do it again. 2 pages. I didn't change it last time. Let's go ahead and click OK. All right, I only see 1. Where's my other page? Your other page is when you scroll down. So the pages in InDesign are built one on top of the other. If you had 1 page, and then 2 and 3 would be below page 1, left and right of each other, 4 and 5 would be the next ones down, so forth and so on. But since we didn't say facing pages, InDesign is giving me my my 2 pages the way I designed it, or the way I asked for it. Now, what if you said to me, actually, I'm just trying to decide, do I want to show you this or not? I don't want to make it too complicated is what I'm trying to figure out. I'll just say this, that InDesign can also have irregular size pages in the same document. When InDesign first started, all the pages had to be whatever you started with. So they all had to be 8.5 by 11, tall. But now, page 1 could be 8.5 by 11, page 2 could be 11 by 8.5. It could be wide. Or page 2 could be the size of a business card. Page 3 could be the size of a tabloid. It could be whatever sizes you want on each page. I'll say that for now. If we have time at the end, I'll show you how that would work. But for now, we're going to go in and we're going to start the process of building that sample design that we saw earlier. So that's what it looks like. So we know we need, and again, thinking, don't try and tackle it all at once. Think of your simplest things first. It's easier. So the first thing I would want, since the photo is behind everything, is let's get ready for the photo. Let's put the photo down at the bottom first and build everything on top of the photo. That's easier to think about, easier to remember. All right, so if it's your photography business, chances are you want to use one of your photos. If it's not your photography business or your business photo, your business is not photography, then you can go grab a photo from stock. You can go grab a photo from anywhere else that you can legally use the photo from. So in this case, since I am doing a photography design, I want to use a photo from my own work. So in that case, I can do this a couple of different ways. First and foremost, let's get the photo in place, or get the placeholder in place. So InDesign has a set of tools to help you with just about every aspect of building your document. So one of those, just like in comp, we had a placeholder. That's kind of why I showed you comp first, so this would make more sense once we get to InDesign. So I have this placeholder with an X in it, just like we drew the X in comp to put pictures in it. We're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do a placeholder right here for my photo that's going to go at the bottom of the page. Do I have to put the photo in right now? Nope. Do I have to put the photo in at some point? Yeah, probably. But you can build this any way you want. You can say, well, I'm just going to put all the placeholders in, then I'll worry about going to bring in all the content later. I want the photo now because that'll kind of give me an idea where I can put the content around the photo, and I can continue to build the background. All right, so let's go figure out what photo I want. From that, since my photos are in Lightroom, I'm going to switch over to Lightroom. And I'm going to say, I can use any photo I want. What photo do I want? Do I want one from my landscapes portfolio? Do I want one from my travel portfolio? Do I want one from whatever it is I want? All right, I kind of like this photo. And again, I'm thinking not necessarily what's the best photo in the world, but I'm thinking what's the best photo to be able to put stuff around it or on top of it, because that's what we're doing. So I have to think in those terms first. There's plenty of white space or empty space around this photo, so that would work well. There's plenty of empty space around this photo, that would work well, but it doesn't really appeal to me for using for this example. If we go back here, there's plenty of white space around this photo. And again, I would have to think too, what am I selling? Am I selling my landscape photography, my portrait photography? I'm going to have a mixture of different pictures. So it all goes into the concept of what it is you're trying to get people to do. If I'm just showing pretty pictures, any of these will work. If I'm trying to sell what I do, then people probably won't hire me to go shoot landscapes. They might hire me to go shoot portraits. So I might want to put a portrait in. When you put portraits in, then you have a whole different problem. Is the portrait appealing to a broad range of people? We can get into all of that stuff, but you just have to think about it. If you're doing wedding photography, for example, does the bride and groom appeal to a wide range of people? And chances are they probably don't, because you shot a bride and groom. You didn't shoot models unless you set up a bride and groom model shoot. So all of that plays into people's psyche. All right, so let's say, for example, that I want to use this one. Just something simple to get on the page. And it's got a nice amount of white space in it. And of course, I can use that color, some of that blue as the background. All right, so how do I get this photo from Lightroom, which is in this case, it is a JPEG, but let's say it was a RAW file. It could be any other kind of file that Lightroom does not support. And actually, InDesign supports just about everything except RAW files. So let's say, for the sake of example, this was a RAW file and I needed to get it into InDesign. How can I do that? I can do it a couple of ways. I can just export it right from Lightroom into a format that InDesign can accept, which is pretty much everything except RAW. B, I can open it in Photoshop, add it to a library if I'm going to use this photo over and over and over again, so that I don't ever have to come back to Lightroom and get it again. So either way works. We'll try an example of each, so that way you get to see. So in this case, let's say I just want to export this out. File, Export, and by the way, there's one downside to doing it this way too. Lightroom is only RGB, red, green, blue. If you're having that brochure printed, which I'm not, I'm just doing it for online, for the web, for PDF, for sharing digitally. But if I'm having it printed at a traditional printer, a print house, then they're going to want the photos in most cases in CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. It's just a different color space. If I do all this work in Lightroom and export it out, they're going to have to convert the photos anyway, and they may look different. They will look different because CMYK isn't as large of a color space as RGB. So if you, depending on which way you're going with this, if you're going to a print house, then you're better off opening that image in Photoshop, saving it out as a TIFF or Photoshop file with a CMYK conversion first. If you don't care about any of that, then Lightroom's export is fine. All right, so I'm going to export this out to my desktop. Let's put these in a folder on my desktop. Let's go to the desktop. We'll put them in a folder called For InDesign, because I'm not going to keep any of this anyway. Now it's going to ask me, well, what file format do you want? Now here's the thing. Let's say it was a RAW file, which we did, and it's coming from RAW, and we're going to what? Well, JPEG is great for sharing online, but it's not necessarily the greatest format for design, because it's a compressed, lossy format. So it's going to deteriorate the quality of that photo a little bit. So in this case, if I know I'm doing this for print or for digitally online, then I might want to use PSD or TIFF instead, because then there won't be any loss of quality. It will be the exact quality that I started with in Lightroom. So TIFF or PSD, InDesign can work with either one. If you are doing PSD, I think InDesign should be able to support 16-bit PSDs, but we'll see in a minute. I don't want to do any resizing. I'm going to export it out as the full resolution of that photo, and I don't want any watermarking on it because it's going into a brochure. I don't need my logo on every single picture. Okay, so when it's done, I just had it show it to me, and now we're going to go ahead and do export. It should only take a second to do that, and there it is. So now it's made this PSD, TIFF, whatever you chose, and there it is, as good a quality as it can be. Now this came from my iPhone, so it's only going to be as good as my iPhone can take. But there's my shot. So now I can go back to InDesign, and I can say, okay, I have my photo ready. I went and made one. Now how do I get that photo into this frame? File, with the frame selected, place is one way. Drag and drop is another way. There are all kinds of ways to get it in there. So I can say File, Place, go to my desktop, into my For InDesign folder, and grab it. Whoa! Where is it? That was a boathouse. How come I don't see it? Because it's bigger than your frame. Your frame is the size of that page. Your image is huge, multi-megapixel image, 8 megapixel in that case. So it's bigger than the frame. How can I see it? Well, you can move it around, and eventually, there it is. There's some of it. There's some of it. That's not what you want, right? You want to be able to see the whole thing. So now you have to think about InDesign and the way it works as far as scaling things down or up or whatever you want. So in this case, the frame is one size, the image is much larger. I can either A, make the frame bigger, which would not suit me in this case because the frame would be this big, or B, size the image down instead. So to size the image down, there's a couple ways to do it. There's actually a button right here on your control panel, but I'm going to show it to you under the menu so you know what it's called. Under the menu, under the object menu, you go to Object, Fitting. Now you have a choice. Fill frame proportionally is my favorite. Fit content proportionally is second favorite. I guess is the best way to describe it. Fill frame proportionally says the frame may not be the exact same aspect ratio as the photo, but I'm going to fill the frame anyway and maybe crop off some of the photo. Fit content proportionally says I'm going to make sure that photo shows you every side of that photo, all four sides, even if I have to leave some white space in the frame because it's not the same aspect ratio. So I like fill frame proportionally because I usually made the frame a certain size for a reason. And if it is cut off, which I can hold my mouse down anywhere on the image for 2 seconds, and actually, here, let me do it here. Hold it on that ring for 2 seconds, and it will show me what's being cut off. So the bottom's being cut off a little bit, and the top's being cut off a little bit. So I can move the photo up to see more of the bottom, and I can say, well, wait a minute, I was just going to have this as a background anyway. I can make that frame bigger to show more of the sky. That's cool. I'm okay with that. And I can, matter of fact, I can make that frame as tall as the entire page because there's no more image anyway. It's just going to be white. And I want to fill that image, fill that frame with the same color as the background anyway. So that works out. But your frame from a photography standpoint becomes your crop. So you can crop that down and show as much or as little as you want from any side. And of course you can grab it from any side and crop that way. And by that fill frame proportionally, we made it fill the frame even though it had to crop off some of the image, which is fine. Now let's go back. Let's undo, 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 undo. Yes, we have multiple undos. I did a lot. All right, let's go back to this. Now let's say we did the other option just so you see the difference. Let's say we said fill frame proportionally before. Let's do the other one. Fit content proportionally. Then that's what you're going to get, because it says I'm going to show you this whole image from top to bottom, even if I have to leave white space on the sides, because your frame is not the same aspect ratio as this image. I have no choice. All right, so let's undo that because I don't like that. That's why this is my favorite option, and that's why it's now at the top of the menu. Fill frame proportionally. All right, and I can then say, you know what? That frame should be the whole size of this document anyway, because I'm going to fill that frame with a color as well. So how do I do that? Let's see. I just want to see something here. I've got my, I wonder where they put it now. Let's see. All right, you've got an eyedropper tool, and your eyedropper tool can be used to sample color. So here's the difficult part of this particular image, is that the sky is not all one color. It's lighter blue here, it's darker blue over here. It's not going to look seamless in this case because it's not the same color. So if I pick the darker blue to fill the frame, which by the way, that was easy because the frame was selected, all I did was take the eyedropper and click. Then it fills the frame with that darker color, which again, that looks only so-so okay because we can see the line there because that's not all the same color. Now we can click the eyedropper again. We can experiment with different colors. Maybe you want to blend it out to a lighter color. That's up to you. Now there are also tricks that we can blend the photo into the background, so that there are ways to do that. Again, if we have time at the end, we'll do more tips and tricks, but you get the idea. We've got our photo in the background. We've got a background color that matches the photo to a point. And if we wanted to get fancy, we could blend it in either in Photoshop or blend it in here in InDesign with a effects trick. All right, so now that we've got that in place, the next thing is, if we go back and look at our example, that example has some text at the top, photography pricing list, and some stuff at the bottom for contact. So let's deal with that next. Now, the other thing is that this is still all one frame. That's all one picture that's a picture on top of a blue frame, or inside of a blue frame, I should say. I can now say, you know what? That's my background for now. Maybe if I want to improve it later, I can. But for now, I don't want to mess up that background. I don't want to touch the background anymore. I don't want to do anything to the background. So just like you have layers in Photoshop, you have layers in Illustrator and InDesign. And right now everything's on that one layer, and we can double click, rename that layer background. We can click OK. We can make a new layer on top of it, and then we can lock this layer. Just click that little empty space there, And that will then lock the background so that we don't accidentally click on things and move them around while we're building stuff on top of it. So it's just a good idea to work in layers whenever it makes sense to work in layers. All right, so now I've got that in place. I'm not going to accidentally click or move anything on the background. So as far as InDesign is concerned, it's pretending that image isn't there. So now we go to layer number 2, which is whatever we want to call it. We can call it our text layer. And on layer number 2, we can now start putting our text in. So at this point, if we look at their example, they had a reversed image or reverse frame at the bottom for the contact info. I kind of like that idea. So let's grab our type tool and let's go ahead and just drag a frame with the type tool at the very bottom. And notice it's red in, as far as the border is concerned, because it's just letting me know it's on that red text layer. So now that I've pulled that frame, and by the way, I can turn that layer off temporarily so we can see what we're doing. Now that we can see that frame that I just created at the bottom, I see my cursor all the way on the left-hand side flashing ready for me to type. So if I start typing, let me click into it to make sure I'm on it. If I start typing right now, Terry White, actually I probably should make that Terry White Photography. There it is, left-hand side, default font, left justified. And of course, you can change this any way you want. So first and foremost, I probably want it centered. Second, I probably want it not only centered horizontally, but I also want it centered vertically. So what I could do is select that frame as an object, go up to my object menu, come down to text frame options, there it is. And there's an option to vertical justification. Instead of the top, I want it centered. Now, of course, why is it not letting me choose options? That's so weird. Hang on for a second here. All right. I should be able to choose center. Okay. For whatever reason, it wouldn't let me click on it, but it did let me arrow down to it. So now that's centered in that frame, both left and right, and top and bottom. Whatever text I put in will stay centered no matter what. So I can say that that's Terry White Photography. Bullet point, Atlanta. That red underline let me know I spelled Atlanta wrong. Atlanta, Georgia. www.terrywhitephotography.com. Okay, whatever you want to say. Now, of course, if we turn on the other layer again, that's impossible to read because it's black text on an image that's already kind of busy at the bottom with all the sand and rocks and trees. So we want to make that more readable. First and foremost, we can do what they did in their example. They did a reversed frame. They did a black frame with white text. That's one way. It doesn't have to be black though. It can be whatever color you want. But first, let's take care of the text. Let's highlight the text. And let's make the text color, which is right here, this little dark or black T. We can make the text color the same color as white or the paper in this case, which it's weird that it calls it paper, but it's paper. Now that we've done that, we can still go back to the frame itself. And with the frame, we can say that we want to fill that frame with a color as well. So we could use, like they did in the example, we could use black so it stands out. Now that's way easier to read. But you can also use whatever color you want. So for example, I don't have to use black, I can use blue. I can use this color from the sample here. So for example, I could go in and say, well, that building's a nice burgundy red color. Let's use that. Now it's matching my photo better, as opposed to just being a random color. So you think that way too. You're not limited to the colors that are built in. Speaking of that, InDesign has a nice new tool for pulling the colors out of your image and turning them into a color group or swatches that you can use for your design. So for example, if I was using the eyedropper this whole time, but there's a color theme tool. If I grab the color theme tool and I click on the photo, look at what it does. It gives me all the colors in that photo for me to use. So I could say I want it to be that color, or this color. Let's make sure we got the frame selected there. Oops, sorry, hang on. Didn't mean to put that away yet. Okay, let's get the theme. And now I want to take that theme. I could either add this theme to the swatches, or I can add this theme to the current CC library. I don't even know what library I'm on. So let's add it to the swatches for now. And if we bring up the swatches panel, that color theme is now there. So now those colors are there for me to use. And if I go back to what I was working on, then I can pick any other color in that photo without having to manually use the eyedropper on every single aspect of it. I kind of like that too. That's kind of cool. All right, so next. The text is also hard to read because of the font and style of it. So this gets back into the designing based on your type, based on what's not only readable, but consistent throughout the rest of your work or your page. So InDesign. All right, the power just went off here for a second. So hopefully I didn't lose any of you. Everything should be on battery backup. Should be good. All right. That's a serif font. And I'm not really crazy about serif fonts for this kind of work. So instead, we want to change that. And now I want to get into the point to where not only do we want to change it, but we want to not just randomly change it and then randomly use another font and then randomly use another font. I want to actually start using the fonts to be consistent throughout the rest of the design. So we've worked so far with the swatches. We're going to pull that out. The next thing we're going to work with is we're going to work with the typography and type design. So let's grab the type tool again. Let's pick a font that I like. And everything's beeping and coming back on thanks to our momentary power outage. So I can go here, and InDesign's font menu is, even though it looks crowded right now, is definitely improved. First and foremost, it shows me my most recently used fonts. Secondly, I can add any fonts that I want as favorites so that, again, they're quick to get to if I use them over and over and over again in a design. I can also search for, remember we talked about serif versus sans serif? I can just say, show me all my sans serif fonts that actually are sans serif. So it will show me those as well. I can say, hang on for a second here. All right, yeah, I just want to filter that out. Okay, I just want to make sure I have that filtered out. Great. So if I'm looking for a thin, thick, heavy, I can also do searches that way. So that'll show me all the heavy fonts I have. Now I want that text to be thicker because I want it to be readable. I don't want to go crazy with it. So now it's time to start thinking about fonts. Since many of you are, if you're in InDesign CC, that means you have Creative Cloud, we can also filter just on the typekit fonts. So that means it will only show me the fonts. I don't know why that's doing that though. It'll only show me the fonts I have in typekit. Apply the typekit filter, yes. And it's not filtering, which is weird. Show me favorites. Show me typekit. All right, hang on for a second. I think I know why. Let's just say that I want to mark that as a favorite. Oh, and InDesign did not like that at all. It just quit on me. All right, so let's reopen InDesign. Oh no, I didn't save any of that. That could be a problem. except that InDesign does autosave. So it has great crash recovery, and in this case it brought me right back to where I was. So I can see that I also didn't pull that frame all the way up, so let's go fix that real quick. Unlock, pull the frame all the way up to the top of the page, and lock again. Okay, back to our story. So let's go to our type menu, select that again. We should probably save it while we're at it. I don't want to totally depend on crash recovery. Let's save it for, we'll call this photography price list. All right. Renee's asking a question that I actually addressed earlier. She said, what's the recommended limit on the number of fonts you should use in one project? As I said earlier, try to shoot for 2, no more than 3. So I would say 3 is your limit. You can use whatever you want, but 3 is a nice limit. That's Minion Pro. I just want to see something here. All right, I kind of like Ephra. And Ephra has a bold, medium, and heavy. So let's make it bold. But I'm not liking the bold of that just yet. Let's make it bigger. Not too big though. It's 14 point. It's kind of large in terms of design, but for the sake of showing you visually, I want to make it bigger so you can actually see it. All right, so that's my Ephra bold 14 point. Now let's say I'm going to use that in other places for other things. I don't want to have to go back and remember any of that, or what font did I use at the bottom? So that's where style sheets come in. So if I go to my window menu, come down to type and tables, bring up the paragraph menu. Sorry, paragraph styles, wrong one, sorry. Actually styles, sorry about that, paragraph styles. There we go. So I can now bring up this panel along with our swatches that we had open earlier. And these two panels are ones that you're going to work with often. So I'm going to say that I want to make a new style. All you have to do is put your cursor anywhere in that font or that type you just did. And now you can make a new style called whatever you want to call it. So I can say, it's not really a headline. We can call it footer. So now that's a style sheet for footer. Anytime I want that exact thing. I want white text, bold, Ephra, 14 point. I don't have to ever remember that again. It will just use it or do it every time I click on this. Okay, getting back to what we were doing before. Let's go back to this. So now we have the type at the top. So same thing. We'll grab our make sure we're in the right layer. We'll grab our type tool. We can go ahead and pull out another frame from the top of the page here. And just for the sake of example, we'll do what they did. We'll do photography price list. And for contrast's sake, let's make it nice and big so we can see it. For contrast's sake, they did 2 different fonts. I don't know if they used 2 different colors. Let's see. Yeah, 2 different fonts, 2 different colors. And by the way, that's one of the biggest things when it comes to design. It's really about contrast. If you do something fancy on one side, do something plain on the other. You do something heavy on one side, do something thin on the other. You do something tall on one side, do something short on the other. It's all about contrast, and this makes a good use of contrast by not only choosing a script font and a sans serif font, but a pink color and a black color. And the sans serif font's much thicker than the script font. So they're using just about every example except size for their example here. So we could do the same thing based on that inspiration if we want to. Now, it put it at the very top, and of course we already saw that I can set it to center vertically, or I can just pull it down. I don't have to always center vertically. So same thing here. If we want price list, and by the way, price list was also all caps versus upper and lowercase. So like I said, they use just about every example in the book. So in this case, if I just want to make that all caps, there's an all caps button right here, so that'll make it all caps. And then again, since we used EFRA before, probably kind of want to stick to that as much as we can. But in this case, we're going to use EFRA, and we're going to use heavy. Okay, so we got our heavy there. Now if we want to do a script here, just for the sake of using their example, then we can go ahead and choose whatever script we want. And hang on, let me see here. So we have different scripts. I just typed in the word script there to show me which ones I have. And I'm trying to see if I like any of these. I thought there was one here. Let me add a font here. So I just click add a font, which takes me to Typekit. And I can say show me all the scripts. And it will show me the ones that are here. I want something nice and thin. Lakeside is similar to what they did. Lush script is the one I was looking for, so I'm going to say use Lush script. Oh, it's already there. Okay, I already have it. Great, and I want to go ahead and choose Lakeside too if I don't already have that. Oh, I already have Lakeside. Okay, I already have them both. So let me choose which one I like better. We can type it in or we can just scroll down to it. There's Lush. Yeah, that's similar to what they did. Let me see which one I like better. Or Lush, or what was the other one? Lakeside. So again, I don't have to scroll for it. I can just say Lakeside and it will take me right to it. Well, Lakeside would need to be bigger. Kind of like them both. But let's stick with Lakeside. Alright, so let's make that bigger. Again, you can choose point sizes. You can type in points. Actually, bigger, not smaller. You can choose point sizes any way you want. Now the other thing, actually let's make it a little bigger. That probably is the best size for this. And the other thing, of course, they did was choose colors. So let's highlight the photography one. And again, we have those color themes that we pulled in from the photo. So I can say just use the lighter blue, which you cannot see. Not a good example of contrast here. I can say use the burgundy again, which you can see. That's a better example using the contrast. And I'm not stuck on those colors. I don't have to use them, but they are the ones from the photo, which keeps it pretty consistent. I can also try the green. Nope, definitely don't like the green. Let's go back to the burgundy. And I can go from there. So price list, we'll keep that in black. And now it's time to continue working on the rest of our photo. Now again, we get back to this line that kind of starts looking distracting here. So we either are going to use that to our advantage or we're going to get rid of it. So to use it to the advantage, hang on, looks like I got a question here. Oh, what's the page where I had all the font choices called? It's called Typekit. So when you go up to your font menu and you don't have a font you want, but you want to go get some fonts, then you can say add fonts from Typekit. That's a Creative Cloud feature for those of you on everything but the photography plan. Unfortunately, the photography plan doesn't include Typekit. But all of the complete packages. So example, if you have InDesign, then you have access to Typekit because you would have gotten InDesign probably in the complete plan to use this. Yep, typekit.com/fonts. That's what it was. All right. Okay, so next. So either I'm going to get rid of that line or use it to my advantage. So let's say I want to use it to my advantage. Maybe I want to separate this into. So in this case, what I can do is go back to that frame. I have to unlock it first. Now keep in mind, we made a frame, we put a photo in it, then we made the frame taller, and we just changed the color of the background of the frame. So that's really a picture sitting inside of a blue frame. But InDesign still knows the picture is the only thing in that frame. So it can still have effects based on the frame and what the content is. So with that frame selected, I want to try something. I don't know if this will work or not, but what I want to try is I want to try making that line stand out even a little bit more. I'm going to go to my effects panel. I'm going to go to drop shadow. This will either work or it won't. And I'll go to my preview, and I can see it there. Let me see if I see it up here. Yeah, see what it's doing is it's putting the drop shadow on the frame up above. And that's okay. But what I really want is I want it to be on the frame. I want it to be on the actual image. So that was the part I wasn't sure about. I didn't know if it would recognize the image or not. So I can do a couple of things. Number one, I can just duplicate this frame and get rid of the image in one of them. That's the easiest way to do it. So in this case, I'll just copy, paste, duplicate. I'm just thinking of the 5 ways I could do this. Let's just duplicate it. All right. So in this case, now we're just going to go ahead and pull the frame back down to being just the size of the image. And that's why it looks exactly the same, because all we did was just duplicate it. Now on this one, we can go in and we can say, I just double click and I'm going to hit delete to delete the image out of that frame, because we have this one now by itself. So we're just going to pull that back down. Perfect. And now we can go in and do that effect. So I can go to drop shadow, and we'll just go ahead and apply that drop shadow up above it. We don't want it to be so strong though, so let's go ahead and just lower the opacity of it. Maybe something like that. So now it looks like the picture is actually coming off the page a little bit. All right. Great. All right, so in other words, either get rid of the line or make the line either more prominent, but don't have it being, is that a line or not a line? Either be obvious with the line or get rid of it. All right, so now that we've got that in place, next we can go ahead and take a look back to our example here, which was here. And okay, so they're doing the packages, the from, and the whatever. So in this case, let's say we want to start doing the packages. Now this is going to be multiple things. Oh, let me lock that layer again. Lock. Okay, so this is going to be multiple things that we want. So we want to go ahead and grab our text tool, and if I remember correctly, package 1. Okay, so let's get our package 1 text in place. And we're just going to call this package 1. Now, of course, I want that to be the same font here. We're using a script. We don't want to use 2 scripts. So again, remember that this was Lakeside regular 72 point blah, blah, blah. So we're just going to go ahead and make this our, actually, we're going to do it two ways. Let's select, actually, no, we'll do it as a, again, trying to think of 5 ways to do this. We're going to select that text. And we're going, but I don't want to do it because that's all one line. We'll do it this way. We'll do it manually one time. So again, thinking in my head, sorry about that. Lakeside, we'll make it bigger. I'm using Command Shift greater than, which is a keyboard shortcut in InDesign. We'll make sure we use the same color, which was, I believe, this one. And so now we've got that text. So now that I've got that text separate and the right size, maybe a little smaller, we'll go ahead and say that this is a new style sheet called package heading, because that's what it is. Okay, so we got our package heading in place, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 5, or 50. The next thing we wanted was they're doing the from and $150. Okay, so let's do the from. Just making a separate frame. And was it all caps? Again, it doesn't matter, it's up to you, but let's make it all caps just like theirs. And what font do we have up here? This was Ephra, so we'll use Ephra again, but maybe not as thick. Ephra medium. All right, we'll make that bigger, and we can use whatever color we want, but you get the idea, maybe not that big. There we go. And then we come down one more. Now, could I put the price in the same frame? Could I just make the frame bigger? Sure. I don't have to have separate frames for everything. Let's say our price is going to start at 100. Okay, so now I've got the price at 100. Again, I can make this any size I want. Let's make it big to begin with. But see, then when you have it in the same frame, you do have to then start knowing how to adjust your, in this case, leading or spacing and kerning and tracking. So you have to learn more about the typography features to make it look right if you're going to use this. This was F for medium. We probably want it to be a little thicker, maybe F for bold. All right, so now that I've got those two there, how do I make it less space in between them? That's called leading. And normally when you make something super big and something super small, it'll be spaced out like this. So there is a keyboard shortcut. Option or Alt and your up arrow will make it move up. So that way you can get it nice and big. And while you've got the 100 selected, you can go in and Option or Alt left arrow to make it tighter. Let me see, the dollar sign probably was, oh, the dollar sign was that big. I was going to say maybe they made their dollar sign smaller. Ooh, that's too tight. I don't want them touching. And maybe in between these two letters, you can get as picky as you want on how you want that to look. So you can kern each individual instance to make it look the way you want. So again, I can call this one so I don't ever have to do all that again. I can call that one price. And I can call this one up here from. All right, so now that I've got all of that styled, and by the way, we're going to make from a different color, so I might have to redefine that. Let's go to our colors. And I'm starting to get to the point where I don't like just these colors, so I may have to use something else. Maybe, hang on for a second. Maybe just that lighter color. I don't want to do it on the background though, hang on. There we go. Eyedropper, nothing selected. And I'll use that lighter color and we'll add that as a swatch. And we can even put it inside that same color group. So now I've got a new color that is in the photo but didn't get picked up by the color group. And then we'll go ahead and make that this color. That's hard to see. I don't know why I keep doing that. All right, we need something darker. Okay, we'll stick to what works. We'll stick to the burgundy for now. Okay, so next, and again, we don't need that frame that big anymore, so we can consolidate that down. Now, of course, they had a rule on there, so you have a rule tool. You can just go ahead and draw your line down. Hold down your Shift key so it's perfectly straight. Make that as long as you want it to be, and as thick or as thin as you want it to be. So if you want it thinner, it can be thinner. And next, and last but not least, we only got 15 minutes left, so by the way, I'm going to crank through a couple of things real fast here. You would then just go ahead and put your whatever's in that package in the frame right here. So this could be 1 hour session, 3 retouched photos, photo 2 wardrobe changes, whatever you would do for $100. I'm just guessing. All right, and of course you change that font to whatever you want it to be. So now you've got these 4 elements that make up your package, and you can now select all of them and hold down your Option or Alt key and duplicate it so that you don't have to do them again from scratch. So now we make that one package 2 and whatever else you want it to be. There we go. From 200, and it includes 2 hour session and blah 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 blah. All right, got it. Okay, so it's what I like to refer to as rinse and repeat. So now, how do I get other things in here that I want? So for example, I'd obviously want my logo in here at some point. So maybe my logo in the lower left hand corner of that photo. So what I can do is use a Creative Cloud library where my logo is stored. You can also just place it. Let's see if I've got my logo here. or CC libraries here. There's my CC libraries panel. I'll stick it over here. Switch to my library, which, by the way, there's that stock image that we used earlier from comp. The preview made its way in, and I'll go to my library, and in my library I've got lots of colors. I've got more items, including my TW logo, and I can just go ahead and drag that in, and it will let me place that anywhere I want. It knows that it's whatever aspect ratio, it keeps it nice and uniform. And it's transparent because it's a Photoshop layer with no background. Or a ping file, either one would be transparent. So again, at this point, you just keep building your look and feel. Now, two things, since we only have a few minutes left. What if you don't even want to do this? What if you don't want to do all of this manual stuff? You just kind of want a turnkey or template solution. What you can do is, is there a question I'm missing? I don't see one. Okay. What you can do instead, you can go one step further. If you go to stock, Adobe stock, stock.adobe.com. I don't have time for all that stuff, Terry, manually. Go to, or look for, photography, or no, not even photography, just price list. And you can do price list or price list background. Let's do price list. When you search, you will find some ready-made designs ready to go. These are Illustrator vector files. So you can open them up in Illustrator or place them in InDesign. And if you open up in Illustrator, obviously you can change them. So, for example, here's one that's kind of cool. Nicely designed, ready to go. Change the text, change the pricing, change the descriptions to whatever you want, and you're done. That's like your price list. That's your page right there, or your package list. Here's one that's a little bit more elaborate for pricing. It's got all the columns and everything built. So if you don't want to design it yourself, there's certainly lots of options here to buy it. To just download one. It's a vector file, ready to go. Put your look and feel on it. Change anything about it you want. You don't like the colors, don't like the fonts, don't like anything about it, change it to what you do like. All right, last but not least, let's say we're done. We're not, but let's say we were. How would I then put this online? How would I send this out? So a couple of ways. I'm going to delete the second page because we never got to it. Ran out of time. So let's get rid of page 2. And now we're just going to deal with this one page. And we're going to go ahead and pretend that this is finished. So we're going to duplicate this one more time. All right. And maybe down here's your landscape packages, and up here's your portrait packages, whatever you want. All right, so let's say this we're done. And just so it looks a little different. 2 ways to put this online in my last few minutes. Number 1, obviously, the first thing that comes to a lot of people's mind is I can export this as a PDF, put the PDF on my website, let people download the PDF. Absolutely. Number 2, hang on. Will fonts used elsewhere save into a library, or is it Adobe source fonts only? You can use whatever fonts you want in a library. They don't have to be Adobe source. They don't have to be typekit, in other words. And yes, you can put your own type styles or character styles in a library, whether they're typekit or not. Okay. All right. Let me get to the last 9 minutes because it's the most exciting. All right. So anyway. And I'll stick around for a few minutes after questions once we gotta let the next streamer on as well. So I can hit export or PDF presets and export a high quality print, ready for print PDF and put that PDF anywhere I want. Email it, put it on a website, share it on Facebook, however you want to do it. If you can share PDFs on Facebook. I don't know if you can. Or you can export it out as an image. So this could be just a JPEG that you could share on Facebook as an image. But one of my favorite new ways to do this is called Publish Online. So in my next, let's say we can wrap this up in 5 minutes. what I want to do is I want to switch to a different workspace for this last part. I'm going to switch to a workspace called Digital Publishing. That's the one I want. When I switch to Digital Publishing, it just switches some panels on and turns some other ones off. They're all still there, but now I've got this, and I don't want index, by the way. Now I've got this new set of options where I can animate this. So what do I mean by animate this? First and foremost, I should have grouped these. So let's select that one and group it together. Let's select this one and group it together. All I'm doing is just making it one piece as far as InDesign is concerned, instead of separate, 5 separate things. All right, so now those are all grouped together. And of course, this is separate. So this is separate, this is separate, this is separate, this is separate. And of course, this is separate. What I want to do is I want that to fly in from the top. So I go to my animation panel, and I can say, I don't have to know how to program anything. I can just say what I want. I want it to appear. I want it to fade in. I want it to fly in from the top. Fly in from the top. And it gives me a little preview of what that might look like. And then I want this one to be next, package number 1. Maybe I don't want all this flying in. I just want it to fade in. Fade that one in. Fade this one in. Fade this one in, just so it looks cooler. Fade this one in and fade this one in. All right, we're going to do one more thing that you weren't expecting today. Let's go to another layer. Let's create a new layer, and we're going to call this layer video. Because it's going to be online, I want people to be able to see what I do. So I'm going to go in and File, Place. And we're going to go grab, hang on here, I think it was out here still. We're going to go grab a video to bring in. And so now I've got this video. I don't know if that works. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so the problem is where to put it. I'm going to put it right there. And we'll bring it over and put it right here. All right, so now that's a video ready to go. And I don't know if I need to fit that or not, but we're running out of time. So anyway, there's my video ready to go in that frame. And here, I should probably do that. Hold on. Just in case. All right, so, and I put that on a layer because that way I can turn that layer off for print. Obviously, I don't want a video for print and PDF, but I could leave it on for interactive. And then we'll fade that one in last. So we'll choose that frame, and we'll say now we want to fade that one in, and we want this to have a let's see here from my choices over here. Hang on for a second. I need to move some stuff over out of my way. Media, thank you. We want to choose a poster frame from this. So this lets me go all the way through my video. Lets me see what's in the video. So it's a video of me doing a shoot, by the way, and I can say that I want to choose a poster frame from the current frame. Yes. So then it gives it a picture. In other words, no one would know what that is. So now we've got, and you can put some text around it, play this video, whatever. But for the sake of time, we're going to say now and save. We're going to save it. And we're going to say publish online, this new button in the upper right hand corner. What this will do is turn my InDesign document into an actual interactive HTML5 based experience. Last but not least, we want our website to be active. So we want to go in and make that a hyperlink. So that's why I brought up this digital publishing, because it's got everything right here. So we're going to go ahead and say, make that a hyperlink. Should have picked that up automatically. Oh yeah, there we go. Make it a hyperlink from that text, and we can style it any way we want. But now that's an actual clickable, tappable hyperlink once this goes interactive, so they can get to the rest of the site. All right, so now we're going to say publish online. Publish to a new document, photography price list, all pages. I can say allow viewers to download this as a PDF when they finish watching online. Click OK. And in a few seconds, it will actually start to upload that. And it'll upload it as part of your Creative Cloud account to Adobe server. So you don't have to worry about hosting it. We're going to host it for you. And put the wrapper around it and make it HTML5 and all that. And then you can embed it on your own website or just send people the link. It's up to you. Glad you like the info. All right. Almost done uploading. The video takes a minute. I don't think I dropped, did I? All right. So there it is. It's got my link I can copy. I can go view it. I can share it right now on Facebook and Twitter or email. I'm going to say view the document. That'll take me to my web browser and show me everything fading in just like I asked it to do. And now I could actually play the video. You get the idea. So and I can actually make that link work by clicking it to go to my website. If this were multiple pages, you could go to the next page. You can have navigation buttons that take them to the next page. You can do all of this from InDesign. Now, if I hover anywhere over it, here's my embed option. So if I want to take this and put it on my own website, here's the iframe, or my blog. Here's the iframe to do it right now. So I could copy that, paste it in my code on my website, and that container is on my website, interactive and ready to go. All right, who's up next? Just in case I can give them a shout out. Who's up next? Cool, glad you like it. Best show ever. I don't know about that, but certainly fun to do. Especially when it's all random, off the cuff stuff. Bridezilla, yes, let them fight. Oh, you saw Bridezilla before, right? It is kind of a fun take on here. There we go. Now, you can make that go full screen. I just didn't put that option in the settings. Sucks that InDesign. Yeah, well, it's part of Creative Cloud. So, all right. Yes, you can go get a free trial of InDesign and do everything I just did, including making your price list and your document and publishing it online. All right. You're next. All right. Jonah's next. And I got like literally 30 seconds left. So Merry Christmas, guys. Happy holidays. Thanks for watching my last stream of the year. I will catch you in 2016. Wishing my best and best of everything to you all.